Well, hello to all my swans out there. My name is EJ, and welcome to my channel. If you're a subscriber already, thank you so much for joining us. It is so fun over here. If you are not, what are you waiting for? Join me. There is so much on this channel. Movie reviews, TV reviews. I even review Jennifer Lopez's musical movie Amazon Prime commercial. Yeah, I talked about that on this channel. There's truly so much going down and it is so fun. But in this video we will be diving into Feud season 2, Capote versus the Swans. What is it, the secret inner lives of the Swans? Don't we already know that? Let's get into the episode right now. Well, the day has come. It is the first episode of Feud, Capote versus the Swans, that I don't like. This episode had a lot of ickiness to it. There's things I really loved. I love getting to introduce James Baldwin to a demographic, an audience who might not know who he is. Do I love the portrayal of this very stereotypical performance where we see a black person come and help the white person? Oh wow, we really are doing like magical Negro stereotypes in TV still to this day, and not even doing a commentary on it. If this episode was using that but then kind of morphing it, and then Baldwin's just like, I am not here to fix this white man's life, that would have been great. But he truly was in a dream to help Capote get his writer's block out of the way. We just learned more trash talking about the Swans that we already knew. They're vaguely racist. They like plastic surgery. Like, this episode gave me nothing new. I like what was his name, Chris Chalk's performance of James Baldwin. I mean, amazing figure in civil rights history, in gay rights. I love James Baldwin. I think like his documentary I Am Not Your Negro is something everyone should watch. It's like mandatory educational viewing that should be happening, and I was so excited to see that this episode exists. And there was moments I enjoyed. I mean, the performance again was great, and there was some really interesting lines. There was talking about how any white person has the ability to have racism within them, and that's not saying that every white person is, but it's there. It's that kind of us versus them mentality, and that's sometimes just in your DNA. That also is a conversation that I loved here about sometimes the gay community doesn't have a community. This is long before, we really got into where Pride is, where we are now with, a family at times. But I think that was interesting, where he's just like, Asians, a lot of different minority groups can kind of fall back within themselves. But if you're a gay person, especially in this time period, it's rough for you. And, Capote's in a rough spot. He's being very isolated, deservingly so. This character is like, I feel bad for Capote. I understand him, but he's a sassy brat who's kind of pathetic. I don't think, I just don't think this, especially this portrayal, it's not my favorite of Capote. It's not my favorite of any of these characters, but this episode's still, again, well crafted, looks great. Max Winkler is not Gus Van Sant as a director, but did well in the director's chair. This script, though, just bothered me. I just felt this wasn't the best use of the James Baldwin historical figure, and overall, it just gave me more of the same. Not bad, but just a bit, almost falling into the dreaded yikes category. The episode begins and we are thrust right back into 1975. The Esquire article is out and people are pissed. We really haven't dealt with the heavy ramifications of what the article has done, but we're dealing with that a bit now. Like Bill Paley calling up Capote like, you should be dead, move to like, Cozumel, Mexico, and leave us all alone. Like, I was just like, oh. But again, deservedly so. Even seeing Babe's anger, and I love when she's like, Happy Rockefeller couldn't just pick somebody else, and he's like, this is my fault. I'm like, it's not your fault, Bill, but it is because you shouldn't have been doing it. But also, like, it's a weird thing. Again, nobody in this show is a morally white person. Like, it's the black and white morality. Everyone's in the gray scale. Everyone is evil, but doing what they need to do to survive. And that's what we kind of learn throughout this episode, is it is survival. If it's survival is just putting ourselves around people who look like ourselves, or protecting ourselves, or just being an overall not nice person that we think it's for the better. Again, this whole series is a look at complex people and the layers that we have, but Capote's a hard one to feel his layers for, especially when he's just so down on himself, about to end it all, and then he gets a phone call from James Baldwin that sends him through a path, a spiritual retreat. He goes on his, journey walk through life, through some very fabulous and gay places to figure out that he still can write. What is this episode? The moment James Baldwin enters this, I was kind of excited because he plays this, like, don't feel bad for yourself. What are you doing? Like, he's kind of, he's not making Capote feel better in the way that I think Capote wanted originally, of the, oh, the baby, let's coddle you. I really think Truman Capote wants to be coddled like a child. Maybe, again, his upbringing with his mother being a bit rough could have explained where he is there. But yes, James is kind of coming in being like, this is what's going on, but also give me more gossip. That's where I was just like, is this real? Like, why does he continue to want to know these stories? And us as the viewer, we know these stories. We're hearing a little early on of, like, the way that they judge people's looks. And, oh, Capote, are you happy with this? Everyone from Lee to Anne to Slim to Babe, they all have their things. I mean, we also get the, oh, they like their waspy white people, and they would never have a dinner with you here, James. And I'm like, yeah, but Capote, it feels like you wouldn't either, because you don't in this episode. Like, and then I've done some research on the James Baldwin Truman Capote friendship in real life, and that wasn't really there. So again, it's truly strange when Capote's like, but I'm having dinner with you, and I'm like, but would you? This is definitely the James Baldwin character giving him a lot of information. They go out to dinner first. They go see Bill Paley's art collection and roast it. That's my favorite moment, when I got the girls just being like, yikes. Again, there was a cute little moment here or there that I was just like, again, I liked Tom Hollander's performance of Capote. I thought Chris Chalk was really good as James Baldwin. So seeing them together, I liked those moments where I got fun, shady moments. They go to a gay bar. And again, we're learning so much about Capote's mindset of the Swans, but we already had learned a lot of this. So it just feels like this was a clever way of getting Capote to get more stories prepared for his book, since he has that writer's block. It's confusing. It's not even confusing in that I didn't get it. It's just like, why did we go this route? So then, by the time that Baldwin's at Capote's house at the end, and they're like, why didn't we ever hook up? They share a moment, and it's kind of sweet, but again, it doesn't feel real. It feels like I'm missing the soul of this moment, because again, this didn't happen, and I am not pro, like, everything has to be exactly how it was. I just called out on my other channel the Bob Marley movie because it was a little too fluffy. It was a little too much of like a, look how nice this person was, where I thought there was a little bit more areas to get into in Bob Marley's life. With this one, I'm just like, I don't need this to be fluffy and nice, but also, what are we doing? Like, truly, this whole episode, I was just like, what are we doing? Like, I think I want to just see Capote and, James Baldwin have fun as friends with no reality attached to it? Or do I want them to accurately portray this? Then we would have never got this episode. So again, it's like they just wanted to use a LGBT figure from this time period to kind of integrate itself into the story, but using James Baldwin, using a black character to, pat the white guy on the head and go, it's going to be all okay. I just don't know if that's exactly how it should go. But he does give him the biggest thing. He tells him the story about people who ate swans, and that inspires Capote to do something vaguely gross. Capote wakes up, realizes that it was all just I'm about to off myself induced haze. None of this was real. Great, but this does inspire him. It gets him out of himself, basically. It gets him back to writing, and he eats a swan. We see the neck break. Wow, we really did that. And it was such a heavy-handed metaphor. Like, he's coming for their necks. He ain't playing with the swans. He wasn't playing before. He was a rude piece of poop to them already. Like, this moment of like, oh, he ate the swan. I'm like, yeah, he's been trying to eat the swans the whole time, and he kind of did, and now he's dealing with this episode was confused. I just don't know what it was trying to say, what it was trying to do. What did you all think of this? Was this an episode that you were like, oh yeah, I really like this? Or were you just as confused with why we used this narrative choice, why we did this at the end, and did you learn anything new this episode? Because I didn't, and I'm a bit frustrated by that. Look, episode 5 of Capote vs. the Swans was okay. It's not my favorite, probably the worst one I've seen so far, but even the worst episode of the show is still so well crafted, looks great, well acted. Like, everything technically is here, it just lacks a soul, it just lacks a real point of view, and that was kind of my biggest issue with this episode. Hopefully this was a 1 week detour and we don't keep doing like weird side mission episodes like this. Like, this isn't an anime. I do not need like the fetch quest episode of like, let's just do the filler arc. I don't need that. Give me just straight up what I need. I felt like we put the episode on pause, the whole series on pause to do this episode. That's not what I wanted. But what did you all think of this episode? What do you think of the series so far? What do you think of my channel? Let me know all your feelings down in the comments below. Subscribe to my other channel, Flickering Myth. I'll put a link up here as well. I do movie reviews. I just reviewed Dune Part 2. Jinkies, bro, jinkies. Anyways, alright guys, make sure you guys comment, subscribe, thumbs up, all that jazz, and let's talk about Capote versus the Swans, episode 5, right down below.